Remarkable Results Radio. Carm Capriato, how are you? We're in Lackawanna, New York. I think you've heard me say that a couple of episodes ago. We're at a Transformers peer review group, and with me is Phil Carpenter from Avalon Motorsports and Urban Auto Care out in Denver, Colorado. 5 stores and the 6th soon to be coming. We all hope that's going to work out. Hi, Phil.
How's it going?
It's great. Phil's been on before, and we sure appreciate you. The COO, General Manager, what's your real official title?
Director of Operations.
Director of Operations out at Avalon. How many people you got?
We have about 35.
Wow. How many reports?
6.
6? Is that the right number?
I think so.
7? Can you do 7? New store coming up?
Depends on who the 7 are. Could be 3. Depends on who it is.
Do the store managers report to you, or do you have another layer?
We do have another layer. Tom is our our district manager and director of team development.
Got it. So the store managers report to him.
Yep.
And under you is him?
Is him. And then I also have a operations coordinator. It helps with all kinds of different things like HR and payroll and all that. And then I fill in for Tom sometimes if he's covering for a store or something like that. So we work in tandem.
Do you ever have a need to hire people? Are you ever sure? I mean, a company like yours would never be shorthanded, would it?
I wish. That was great. That's the pie in the sky idea, right? No, we've definitely been shorthanded. We currently need a technician right now, and we're also staffing up for that additional location you're referring to.
How long does it take to find a good technician?
A good technician, typically our average is about 3 months. Can go a little longer than that. Sometimes you get lucky and it's less than that. You've had a established line of communication with somebody that maybe you talked to 3-4 years ago and you're following back up with them. Sometimes we get lucky in that area where the timeline gets moved up a little bit faster.
People are so frustrated when they lose somebody, realizing I've heard the 3 months. You had said before we turned the mics on, it could be up to 4. Mm-hmm. You're always advertising then, right?
Yeah. We are constantly recruiting for technicians and advisors. We cycle a manager ad every so often, but it definitely, I feel like it helps with our current employees where they know it's a constant thing. We make sure they understand that they are valuable and it's hard for them to be replaced. So we have to constantly be out there recruiting.
What if I was a pretty decent superstar technician and I got a job offer and it's, you guys have treated me so well, you're paying me well, but this thing is something I can't walk away from. Mm. And because you're advertising all the time, I don't feel so bad to want to leave because who knows, they'll find somebody in a week.
Sure.
Could that go against you because you advertise all the time?
I think if we weren't more vocal about it, because not only do you have to make sure they understand why you have it out there, but also understand that, especially if you have the dollar amount on your ad, you better not be advertising a higher dollar amount for your new technicians than your current technicians are already getting paid. If you aren't very communicative about that and make sure that they understand the why behind it, it could cause some pretty big rifts because you're sending a message.
What do you use? You told me Indeed?
Yeah, Indeed has been our best success for technicians. Of course, perfect world, you're getting a lot of referrals, but thankfully we are pretty good on retention for technicians. So a lot of times they've been with us. We've already kind of gone through the referral list. When you have a tech that's been with you for 9-10 years, their referral list is kind of gone at that point because they weren't recently coming from a dealership.
You guys are a great company. Brian Sump is your owner. He's been on the show before. Great guy. Speaks, just about everywhere that there's a conference.
Yeah.
You guys probably have a tried and true process to bring on people and, the interviewing process. You've told me a little bit about it. It's quite layered. Let's talk about it.
Yeah. So first and foremost, when we see a resume that we feel like there's some potential there, we reach out to them and find out if there's a good time for them to just tell them, hey, we would love to have a conversation with you. We do use other words other than interview a lot of times, just like, hey, we just want to have a conversation. It's less intimidating. We also schedule it as a video interview, and it'll be 30 to, I think the longest has been like an hour and a half. That would be more like a manager level.
So tell me something. You don't want them to come in. You want them to sit at home and be on a Zoom call. Mm-hmm. Really? How many say, I don't have a camera on my laptop, or I'd rather come in? Do you get any people push back on that?
Not too much pushback. We send it's a Google Meet, so we can send it to their phone. They can download it. Everybody's got a phone.
Okay, cool.
So kind of go past that.
And so the first interview is a face-to-face video. And what's the reason of not inviting them in?
Some of it's a convenience and also speed of being able to make it happen. It can be just like you're saying, we post an ad, it sends a message. It also sends a message if you continue, like you got 3, 4, 5, 7 candidates coming through the doors of that shop to everybody that's in there. It's like, oh, who's this guy? Who's this lady? Who's this guy? Versus let's get through that first layer and make sure we understand does the culture side of it line up? Does the mission, vision, value type stuff line up? That's the goal of that first one.
Makes all kind of sense. Keep them out of the building until you get that narrowed down.
Yeah, because it can be, I think it can be very depleting if you have numerous people come through and then they're like, okay, maybe you made 3, 4 offers and they didn't get accepted. Well, man, why aren't they accepting? Or, man, we got how many more people coming through the door? Versus once they know that person comes through the door, like they've already been vetted.
It's like a mill. You don't want to create the look of a revolving situation. Right. Wow. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant think there. All right. What happens next? You've done the video. What's next?
Then we invite them. We tell them we do record it. So typically it'll either be Brian or Tom will do that initial video interview. And then that they'll share it with myself, the 3 of us, basically. Okay. We'll make sure all 3 of us have seen it. If they didn't participate, they're watching that and say, hey, we're going to review this with the leadership team. If it's for a specific store, then we'll share it with that manager. If we're not sure what store it is, it'll just stay with the leadership team. And then, hey, anybody see any red flags, any reason not to proceed? Hey, well, we're going to review this. We're going to reach back out to you you pick the hours. Typically, we try to keep it 24. You got to move quick. Yeah. If you have somebody that's ambitious, that's self-driven, all that kind of stuff, they're not going to sit around and take weeks and weeks to go find a job. They're trying to find something now.
So if you have 2, say you have 3 that creamed to a second interview, and you offer them a chance to come back, like you say, 24 hours, what's the likelihood that somebody can't make your time frame?
Well, let me clarify. So we will reach back out to them in that 24-hour period to then schedule the in-person. So the in-person may be 48 hours after the video interview and maybe a week afterwards.
Okay.
But we do also try to make that quickly, because sometimes you'll get the pushback and they'll say, I got to get off work or whatever. Absolutely, totally respect that. We recognize your loyalty. You don't want to leave your current team in a bad situation by giving them short notice. However, if you're truly looking for that next step, I think it's worth it for you to try to get some time off, to invest that time to see if this is the right opportunity for you.
24 hours to get to second.
24 hours to then schedule the second. And then
to schedule, right?
Yeah,
okay.
And then like 48 to a week. We really don't like going much longer than that unless they're out of state.
So 24 hours to schedule, and then an opening between 48 and a week to accommodate their schedule.
Sure.
And what you guys can do. And that is a face-to-face. Does that happen at the business?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that happens at the business. And then we can preface the team that is coming in. Like, hey, a lot of times we'll do the interviews at Avalon because there's a bigger space there. They've kind of gotten used to like, hey, we might be interviewing them here at Avalon, but they're actually for another store.
Sure.
And then that's also another kind of layer to say like, hey, we get them in person and something comes out and it's like, ooh, we're not going to proceed on this. We're not going to take them to that next store versus, okay, we love this. Hey, we want to proceed. Do you have some extra time? We're going to go see one of these other locations. And it's typically the one we foresee them most likely being placed into.
Hey, it's no secret. We're facing a technician shortage, and Napa Auto Care has a solution with the Napa Auto Care Apprentice Program. The program was pioneered by one of our own. Pete McNeil and Master Technician Jeg Sorensen from McNeil's Auto Care in Sandy, Utah, realized that the problem of not having technicians available for hire was not going to solve itself and decided to take action and look at a different audience of individuals available for hire. A focus was put on younger individuals with the right passion, desire, and attitude to work in the automotive repair industry. Jake and Pete sought after these individuals and developed a technician apprentice program to give them the training needed to become a successful technician in today's world. The Napa Auto Care Apprentice Program includes a comprehensive 9-stage curriculum that includes a variety of types of training, and they are classroom training videos exclusive to the apprentice program. Now, these videos provide in-depth training from a successful master technician. Also, Autotech classes with instructor-led courses offered through Napa Autotech and Autotech e-learning. This web-based e-learning is designed to target specific training topics. And finally, hands-on learning. The apprentice will apply the skills gained from the classroom training videos, Autotech instructor-led training, and Autotech e-learnings in the shop with the guidance of a mentor. The apprentice program curriculum is competency-based, meaning an apprentice can move through each stage at a pace that best suits them. Most apprentices complete the program within 2 years. Upon completion, apprentices will have earned ASE G1, A4, A5, and AC certifications, adding industry validation to the skills an apprentice acquires. Look, having an apprentice in your shop will ultimately benefit your bottom line as they advance through the program. And in most cases, as the apprentice develops their skill set producing billable hours, you'll begin to see a growth in your gross profit by stage 5. One of the largest barriers to entry for individuals looking to enter the automotive repair industry is the cost of tools. Now, keep your apprentice motivated with an apprentice toolkit. Now, Napa Auto Care has worked with our supplying partners to offer an exclusive comprehensive tool set, including a 4-drawer tool cart for all registered apprentices. Hey, to learn more, members can visit member.napaautocare.com. So after the second, you're continuing to narrow down. Do you have a Democratic-style vote based on what you see? And is there a standard set of questions? Do you go to dinner somewhere along this process?
No, it's pretty typical. Like somewhere earliest is around 9 a.m., latest is probably 3:30 or 4. We do try to be flexible in that where, you're trying to go off their schedule and then maybe they're still employed somewhere. We do try to be pretty flexible with that, but it's usually about an hour to hour and a half there at that first location. And then, of course, if we go visit another store, it adds another 45 minutes or so. And then at that point, we will either make an offer right there at the end of that meeting, or we will say, hey, we're going to discuss this and we'll get back to you. Again, we'll tell them like 24 hours or less. We're going to reach back out to you and make a formal offer, that type of thing.
No assessments?
Not typically at that time. No. So what we do, because part of the it's not just about speed of getting them in and making that connection and all of that, but it's showing them the sense of urgency, not in a I'm desperate to hire you, but a sense of urgency of I think you're really, really good and I'm going to move quickly and I'm going to show you that I'm serious. So I'm willing to do these 2 interviews. I'm going to go ahead and make you an offer. We're still going to go ahead and do some other assessments. We do like EQ, emotional intelligence test. We do a high five, which is like strengths finder. And then we'll do a disc profile as well. And we have a pretty good idea of what those are going to come back like already, but it's just kind of a reaffirming of things.
Before they accept your offer, these assessments have been done?
No, we would go ahead and make that offer.
Make the offer and they accept it. And
Yep.
then you go for the evaluations?
Yep. So what happens there? So after the second interview, the one that's in person, we'll say, hey, 24 hours, we'll reach back out to you, set up a time, and we'll actually have like an 8.5 by 11 cardstock formal offer sheet showing all the benefits, what their pay is, and all of that, all printed out on a nice, like, hey, congratulations, you've been offering a position. And we go through that whole thing, make sure they don't have any other questions about it, and just understand that all of this is assuming we've loved the interviews with you. This is all assuming we will have some assessments for you. And we're also going to go through some references as well. But this is all assuming that those are going to go well. I have not had one where we made an offer And then we saw something on an assessment that was like, whoa, no, like red flag, stop.
Got it.
So it does seem a little bit backwards, but the idea is let's show you I'm serious about getting you on board. Let's get through the pay conversation because that's a huge thing. Let's be real about this. And now, okay, I got to go through this assessment. I got to go through this, that, and the other thing. If you put too much on the front side before they make the offer, it's like, man, how many things I got to go through to get on board with this place?
Yeah, I hear you.
Because you already have the video one and then the second one, sometimes people are like, man, this is way too much. I'm not about this. Like, great. Well, appreciate your time and we'll move on. You're not that serious. You don't have the value in your mind of, I need to make sure this is a great fit for me for long term. If that's not at the forefront of their mind, they're not going to be willing to go through our process. So it filters out a lot of people that way. And sometimes it can be frustrating. You're not getting as many people in person or whatever. But I mean, from the time, I would have to look up and see. I love actual data instead of made up statistics, but I know it's a fairly high percentage for people that get to that interview in person to people accepting is pretty high. Versus like if it's just a video interview, there's a lot of those, they get the video interview and that's kind of as far as it gets.
Are the pay discussions tough?
They are. HR compliance and things that you can and can't ask. Like I can't ask you, what were you making? However, I can ask, what do you expect to make in this position based on your experience? And sometimes you might get somebody that's going to shoot high. That's always a risk. But if they're somewhere in the ballpark, then you know you got somewhere to go. If they come off right off the bat with this huge high number, it's pretty clear that it's not going to work out. So,
ever breach the topic? Are you taking this back so you can get a raise at your place?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've asked that direct question.
Really?
Say, hey, where you're currently at, are you truly looking for something else, or are you just looking for a way to get a raise there, or have you? That's a easier, less direct way to ask is, have you already talked to your employer about your earnings to see if they did that? Because you want to know. I want that if they're upset with something and they're thinking about leaving, whether it's they're upset with a coworker or working situation or their pay, I want them to come to me multiple times, ideally. I mean, I should fix it the first time, but to not be so quick to jump on Indeed and start looking for the next thing. That's why I can kind of find out some about their character and how loyal they are by how they answer those questions.
So you could one of the questions could be, because I'm kind of trying to get into your mind on this, have you maxed your earnings?
Yeah, absolutely. That'd be a great one.
Have you maxed your earnings?
Yeah, because one thing we like to hear, especially on the advisor side, is like people feeling like they want to grow and get better, not necessarily with just pay or title, but just like, I want to hone my craft and I feel like I don't have that opportunity where I'm at. That's something that we really like to hear in those interviews because you see somebody that's a constant learner.
This is interesting. It's unique. Ever any ghosters?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, ghosts are real.
I can't even believe it. Not you, Phil.
Yeah, ghosts are real, at least in this case. Yeah, it's crazy. You'd think that you go through that much process. And then, I mean, we've had times where you go to make the offer and they're like, okay, yeah, let me think about it. And you've already had the video interview. You had the in-person interview. You met them again to give them the offer sheet. And then all of a sudden, just crickets. I did have two people that, one, I turned down a technician. He just wasn't experienced enough for what we were looking for at the time, but I still wanted to interview him. And then, so we declined to him, but I said, hey, if I have an opening for a technician spot with your experience, you're going to be the absolute first call. Is it okay if I reach out to you in a month or so and just check in? It's like, yeah, no problem. Right at a month, said my Google email, snooze for 30 days. All right, pops up, text so-and-so. Hey, how's it going? I'm just checking on you, see how are things? Nothing. He's doing it to me. And he was very appreciative, very cordial, like the most pleasant, I'm not going to hire you conversation I've ever had. I'm like, man, why did you do that to me? So I was like, I'm going to try one more time. So I waited a whole nother week. I was like, hey, did you get my text? If you're not interested, that's totally fine. Just let me know. So I wasn't accusatory. I was just, hey, maybe you got lost in translation somewhere. And he's like, oh my gosh, yes, it did get lost in my text. I'm so sorry. Thanks for checking in. I'm enjoying where I'm at, but thank you so much. And I was like, okay, awesome. Appreciate that. If anything changes, just let me know.
Phil Carpenter, Avalon and Urban Auto Care. Interesting that you said in the beginning, I'll send them an email, and then you said text. Mm-hmm. What's working better?
Text for sure.
See? Yeah. That's what I was thinking, that people just don't read emails anymore.
Yeah, and I would say that even through the initial contact as well. Like, we'll try it through Indeed, but if it's somebody that's like, we really want this person, we're going to text them and email them, because it can get lost in the email box a lot easier than it gets lost in the text message.
What's next after? I mean, who would have thought years ago we would say email doesn't work anymore, and it's all about text? Is there something that will replace text? Any ideas?
Hologram.
What?
A hologram?
A hologram?
Could be.
Oh. So my phone is sitting here flat on the table, and all of a sudden, Phil would pop up.
Yeah, Star Wars. Obi-Wan wants to.
Yeah, the Obi-Wan hologram.
Yeah.
Oh my.
Or maybe it, like, I don't know, it zaps your wrist or something. I don't know. But, yeah, we'll see. I mean, people are really good at ignoring things, so we'll find a way to ignore whatever it is.
Is there face-to-face on the wrist today?
No.
Are there cameras in TV?
So. But you can't, like, see a person.
You can't see a person on your wrist today? But they're working on that, right?
I'm sure
they are, huh? As well as they're working on the hologram thing, right?
Oh, yeah.
And the whole AI thing. Golly, I was watching a program on AI the other day. Sorry for this little left into the weeds. And they said that there's an AI program out there that if you put your face up, 62% of the time they can tell you what your political affiliation is by how you look.
Wow. Isn't that judging a book by its cover?
Yes, exactly right. And I thought, oh, here we go. Survey after survey after survey about all this new stuff coming out.
Yeah.
And it's almost like there's just too damn much incoming.
Yeah. On the AI topic and interviews, we saw an article about like having AI write like your cover letter. It was spot on. Like, it was, I mean, you could tell like little nuances that look a little robotic, but
but you wouldn't take that for face value. You would, if you went to AI and you got it and you put it into your word processor or your Google Doc or wherever, you're still going to put the Phil touch on that, aren't you?
Oh yeah. I mean, if I was using, of course, but if I just on the receiving end, so say we see this like gorgeous cover letter, maybe somebody used ChatGPT or something to write it. But then, I mean, if you just trusted a resume and a cover letter and you got real excited because you've been desperate because you haven't had a tech for 3 months, and you're like, oh, just hire that guy. Then you're going to figure out later that there's no way he wrote that cover letter. But if you have a more detailed, layered interview process, you're going to find out he doesn't talk anything like that cover letter.
In the first 10 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
He used $20 words, and he's now in the interview with $2 words.
Yeah, exactly.
I get it. I love the idea of printing the offer on cardstock. Mm-hmm. It's brilliant.
Yeah, it just makes it, I mean, it's an extra trip. You got to send the PDF to FedEx Kinko's, you go pick it up and all that. And then we actually print 2 copies. So one of them they keep, one of them we keep, making it real. Hey, you accept? Awesome. I'm going to sign this right now. This is real. And then same thing, you're accepting that letter and they give it back to us. Because then it avoids that, like, I mean, I had early in my career was, hey, you're going to make this much money. And then I show up to do it. And they're like, that's not what I said. Like, this avoids any of that. I'm putting paper to what I'm telling you right now. And my word is my bond, but here's my signature because, we did just meet. So
I think of the word substance.
It's tangible.
Yeah. It's not just a flimsy, 20-pound piece of paper. Right. By the way, go buy just a ream of card stock and put it in one of your local printers.
Well, we didn't invest much into our printers because we're a paperless operation. So
smart.
Our printers could print it, but it just wouldn't look right.
It doesn't look good. I get it.
Yeah, 100-pound stock.
See, I do print cardstock on I have a laser printer. See that? Look at those are cards.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, anyway, enough about me. So you hire the individual, maybe you get a ghosting or two and they come in. What's the orientation process like?
Sure. So we do send them, we give them the offer of whether they want to see the handbook ahead of time, and then like before their first start date, say, hey, we can cover this on the first day. If you want to take a look at it sooner, we can email that over to you. And then we do have videos that accompany the handbook. So glance through the handbook, but if you have any questions on any of that stuff, we do have a video from Brian, the owner, through Trainual and everything. And then it kind of goes more in detail. He's not like sitting there reading it word for word. He's just explaining more of the why behind what's in there. So a lot of times you can kind of tell like how excited and how amped somebody is to start. If they're like, yeah, send it all to me. Or, yeah, let's deal with it on the first day. I'm like, okay, well, it just starts to show you things. And then same thing, we do have a lot of videos built out for service advisors and phone handling. Same thing we offer. If they want to take a look at those, they're welcome to, but it's not mandatory. And we just sell it as, hey, do you want to be kind of going through a bunch of paperwork and like little stuff on their first day, or do you want to try to more hit the ground running? And a lot of times they do opt to take a look at that ahead of time.
Phil, I've heard other shop owners say that a critical piece of getting the right candidate to come to work for them would be the buy-in from the spouse and a dinner.
Yeah.
You guys, I haven't heard anything about that. I mean, you don't go to dinner, but did you ever have a chance to talk to the spouse?
We haven't, but it's a great idea. I absolutely like it. We have done that on the acquisition side.
Yeah.
So if we're acquiring a shop, that we go to dinner with their significant other, and same thing, just trying to answer questions and all that. So I don't think it's a bad idea at all. I think,
but it slows the process.
It does slow the process. I think we have a lot of layers already, so I'd have to kind of think through that and think, is that one too many layers for us, or is it worth removing one of the layers and replacing it with that? Could be.
I like the whole systematized layer thing. I mean, you've got, this is the way it is. Bing, bam, boom, boom. Mm-hmm. And then, we get close enough to the bam, we got ourselves a hire. You were saying before we turned the mics on about 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then 3 to 4 months. The 2-week hire was to replace
typically a service advisor. I can get a pretty high quality service advisor candidate in about a 2-3 week timeline, at least to have an agreement.
Okay.
Of course, maybe we want to let them honor if they want to put in a 2-week notice. We don't hold that against anybody. We would want the same respect. So it can be more like a month to 5 weeks for the actual replacement. And then a manager, we've actually had pretty good success on the manager side. And that's probably more of a month process. And those we do spend a little bit more time on the video, a little bit more time in person, that type of thing. So, and then those, sometimes we do, if we're trying to get like more conviction or reassurance before we make the offer, sometimes with managers, we will have them do the assessments ahead of time. It just depends on what we feel that timeline is. If they're okay at where job they're at, they're still employed, they're like, hey, I want to make a move in the next 1 to 3 months. Okay, are you looking at any other shops, or have you applied anywhere else, to try to feel out like what's the sense of urgency here? Because there's a difference between sense of urgency and taking something serious and being desperate. And we remind ourselves and each other, we will not make a desperation hire. Don't lower your standards just because you're in a really bad spot.
So regarding text, the 3 to 4 month window that you feel it requires to advertise and recruit, which is why you're always recruiting. Your people understand that you're always going to run an ad for a lot of reasons. Number one, you're growing.
Yep.
And you never know when the next deal is going to come up. So you constantly have to be finding opportunity amongst all the candidates inside of Denver. But at a 3 or 4 month window, it almost seems like you're always shorthanded somebody. Is that a truism?
It can feel that way sometimes, or you get to a spot where you're like, we're fully staffed. Perfect. and then
Find
something's coming.
Knock on wood.
Somebody gets a bunch of Bitcoin and they retire. That's a real story. And then we also had one, like we had him for about 3 weeks and then put in his 2 weeks notice. Doing great. His girlfriend got called in. She was working remote and they said, hey, we need you to work in person now. Had to move across the country. And he's like, I'm going with her. And so it's like, we just got this guy and off he goes. Nothing you can do about it. So
what other reasons do people leave?
we had one leave for burnout. And he was, I would say, we had some struggles in that store and it just wore on him a bit. And I think I've talked to him a couple times since he left, still good friends with him.
Where did he go?
Another shop.
Okay.
And I know the owner there. He called me. It was all good.
Yeah.
And I just visited him last week. He actually has 2 of our former employees. But it's all like they're both happy and we are in a better situation as well. So like it's fine. They both needed a fresh start, a little bit different environment where I think just being a little bit more free to run things the way they want to run it on a daily basis versus being told more like, hey, this is how we want to do it. Because when you have 5 locations, there's a constant focus of giving autonomy to your people, but also trying to deliver a consistent product. You don't want robots. You want people that are bought in and take ownership of their store, but you also need it so if a customer moves from one side of town to the other and they come into Urban Auto Care, they know they're going to get that same level of service and it's going to be a consistent thing, even though they're working with completely different people.
Do your people get a twice-a-year review, an official sit-down?
We do an official sit-down once a year, but that's more because we do monthly one-on-ones. So the manager will do monthly one-on-one with each team member. And then I've started with our managers to do a monthly one-on-one with them.
Highly documented?
Yes.
Okay.
They weren't initially. They were a lot more casual to begin with. But then I was like, hey, we really need to write this down so that we can, the next one, we can review, hey, what did we talk about last time? What were we working on? Where are we at with that? Is like, do we see progress?
Patterns or progress.
Yep.
Yeah, I get it. Did you ever approach an acquisition and then not do the final deal because you didn't think the culture of the people were right?
I don't think it's gotten that far.
Okay, you found that up front before you...
Yeah. So in the case, the one we're under contract for, there's actually going to be 0 employees available. It was down to basically 2.5 employees. One retired. The other one found out that was going to get sold at some point soon and decided to move on to another opportunity. We're still trying to talk to him to see if we can get him in to meet our team and see what he might be missing out on. Previous ones, we treat it like these are slightly more vetted candidates but you're still interviewing for a job.
Got it. So people that are leaving maybe not only you, but leaving the industry, do you hear anything about any scuttlebutt, any people among your peers saying, yeah, I just lost somebody and he went to work on forklifts. I just lost somebody that went to work on HVAC. Have you heard any of that? Not
a whole lot. Typically the ones that I've heard, we lost a technician he was becoming a pilot. It came out on we do some goal boards that we borrowed that idea from AutoStream, David Asquith, that's in the other room.
Yeah.
And it came out on a goal board. Hey, I want to be a pilot and I'm getting my pilot's license, all that. And there's 2 things you can do with that. You can think, well, his time's limited and I'm going to stop investing in this guy, or I'm going to try to make it difficult for them to pursue their actual dream that's not here. Or you can say, hey man, what do you need for that? And he's like, oh, I really need a little bit more flexible schedule. What does that look like? Can we do that? Yes. Yeah, we can do that. And eventually he left and he's a lot closer to his pilot's license now than he was, and celebrate that with him. But then he's at least happy while he's with you, and happy employees do a lot better job than ones that you're trying to stop their dreams.
It's the exact right thing to say. Yeah. Wow. We're here for a peer review. Mm-hmm. Have you ever had one?
I have. Yeah, it's been about 4 or 5 years probably.
Yeah. What'd you learn from it?
a lot.
Cool. I don't, it's confidential. I get that. You walked around to the Scruggs locations here. Did you, anything to take away for you?
Yeah, I think they do a really good job on a lot of things. I think they are focusing a lot on their employees to make sure that they're taken good care of, and they truly care about their people. I think sometimes that we had a similar situation where I felt like we were so focused on taking care of our people that our accountability wasn't quite there. And
so you were loose?
I wouldn't say loose.
Easy?
Too forgiving.
Okay, all right.
Giving too much grace. Whereas, hey, I'm going to do a lot of these things and we're going to create a really good environment for you. But I need you to return that with actual performance. Because it doesn't, just because you're trying to hold the line on margins or hold the line on expectations doesn't mean it's not a good environment, or it doesn't mean that you're not taking care of your employees. I want to take even better care of you, but I can't if I don't get this profit or get these sales or whatever. So it's I guess sales, that was one thing that came out, was sales solves a lot of problems. Which,
yes,
I mean,
it does.
It's the fuel that keeps everything going. But of course, you can't do it without your people.
Every interview that I've ever done, I listen so intently to, I call them cherries that fall off the tree, ripe cherries that fall off the tree. Mm-hmm. And I just got one from you just a sec ago.
Okay.
Too much grace. I just love that. Mm-hmm. And I think we're all guilty of being lenient or forgiving or forgetting. It's the long weekend. They've had a couple of issues at home. Mm-hmm. And there's always a reason why we give too much grace.
Right.
And then when the tough love period comes, it's so difficult to build up the courage to go out and have that, because you were the guilty party of having too much grace.
Right.
And then you got to bring that person back, if you will, into center. Mm-hmm. And those are tough conversations to have. So I just love your point. Be careful of the grace that you allow your people to have, because you're still running a business.
Right. Yeah, there's grace and there's excuses, and then there's weathering a storm through, say, an employee's going through something difficult in life, and you're trying to be there for them, you're trying to walk through that storm with them, but then you're waiting for the storm to break and the sun to come out, and then you see another storm and another storm and another storm, and then you start to wonder, is that person just a lightning rod that's like, it just comes to them all the time? And am I now shifting my business into a charity? And that's a difficult slippery slope as well.
Oh, you mean stormy over there?
Yeah.
Oh my. Yeah.
So it's hard, because I mean, I would say a general assumption or a general statement for our industry is most of the people that are like started these businesses, they care about people. They got into it because they're problem solvers. They want to fix things. They want to help people with their cars. And so you also then want to help your people that are a technician or advisor, whatever their position is. You're in the business of helping people, and then we also think we can fix everything. So, well, let's not replace that. Let's fix that, right? And we sometimes convince ourselves like, oh yeah, like I could fix that person. I can get through that with them. So I think we hang on to our people maybe a little bit longer than we should. I think we tell ourselves that every time we finally let someone go, and you see how things turn around and get better after they're gone, or you get a replacement. It's still like, that's a person. It's still like, man, this is hard. Like, I'm telling them, you can't come to the job that you want to come to. Even if they're not doing good, they don't show up to want to do a bad job. Like, people don't get out of bed and be like, yeah, I really want to do a bad job today. That's not how people, maybe 5% of the people do that out there, but they're not in our company anyway. So
you're wise beyond your years. You're only what, 25?
Oh, thank you. I just turned 40. So
you just turned 40.
Yeah.
Damn. Good for you. I remember that decade.
30s, I think I call it the lost decade.
What were you doing?
Well, having kids.
Okay.
My 5-year-old son was singing happy birthday to me, and you do the one, are you 1? Are you 2? Are you 3? And he counts up, are you 28? Are you 29? 40. And I'm like,
He jumped up?
yeah, he skipped all the 30s. I'm like, that's exactly how it felt.
Oh
It was
my.
just a good laugh, wisdom.
He jumped.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. That's a great story.
Yeah.
You know, in our household, Tracy, we never did that. Are you 1? Are you 2? Are you 3? We never did that.
We just ate the cake.
We just ate the cake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We did it one time for my grandma. She made it to 99. So
No. 99 bottles of beer on the wall.
she lived around here, actually. She lived in Jamestown.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Of course, we know Jamestown.
Absolutely.
The Comedy Hall of Fame, right?
Comedy Center. And then
The
Lucille Ball Hall.
Comedy
Lucille
Center
Ball.
and the Lucille Ball Hall of Fame or whatever. Down in Jamestown.
Yep.
Tracy's getting married at the other end of the lake in Chautauqua.
Nice.
So, yeah. Phil Carpenter, Avalon Motorsports, Urban Auto Care out of Denver, 5 stores, soon to become 6.
Yep.
Great, brilliant wisdom. Thank you for sharing your entire recruitment story.
Thank you.
And now, I know you've learned something. You have. Positive you did. Now, go get it done.